Hello there, and what I'm looking at today is a prototype keyboard. Um, Came out around sometime in 2019 anyway, and you can see there's a bunch of keys missing from it. And what I'm looking to do is to use a donor keyboard to take the mechanisms off of that and transfer them to the prototype next keyboard so that I can fit all the keys back in. And the donor keyboard is interesting because, as the opening title suggested, Rickard recommended that we go with an OEM keyboard manufacturer to create the next keyboard, and that the next keyboard should be based on an existing design rather than reinventing the keyboard. And the things that we would add to that existing design were the membrane and the keycaps. So everything else would be off the shelf. And it just so happens that the off the shelf, in this case, is a K82A keyboard. And that is what the next keyboard is based on. So with the K82A, if you take the keys off, you'll see the keys will fit on a next. The next keys will fit on a K82A keyboard, and the butterfly mechanisms are the same. So initially here, I've taken one of the mechanisms out, and I am now fitting it carefully to the next keyboard. And I'm going to do that, rinse and repeat for all of these, and find a better tool to extract them, because you've got to be very careful when you're taking them out that you don't break any of the very fragile little pieces of plastic. And probably throw a close-up of that in just so you can see what a good one looks like, what a bad one looks like. They are quite fiddly to do. There is a video on the channel which shows a bit of a closer up look at how you put the butterfly mechanisms in. And then the key, literally, I mean, these ones are a bit more complicated because they have the metal bar on. They just slide under some plastic tabs, like that. And then once they're slid under, you're basically putting pressure on the key in all different places, especially top and bottom, because that's where the butterfly mechanisms clip in, on the top and the bottom. And you're really just pressing, wiggling, pressing until it clicks in both sides. As you can see here, the top side isn't in, so I just continue applying pressure, wiggling until I get a good click, and now the key is solid. So that's a key repaired, and many more to go. And you want to remove the mechanism from the key itself if it has been trapped in the key. Sometimes, depending on how it's removed, if it's damaged on the section where it meets the next keyboard itself, you tend to find that the butterfly mechanism will be held in the key, as you can see here, and we need to remove it. The plastic spudger, whilst it's more gentle, doesn't seem to be a great tool for doing this, to be honest. Ideally, you want the mechanism to be as flat as possible when you're removing it, because it gives you the best chance of removing it without damaging it. So as you can see here, I'm just ripping it out now, and probably find something sharper so that you can get under the mechanism whilst it's flat, and there's not much space there, so you need something quite sharp. So I'll be getting the sharp tweezers out for that. So this uses a longer mechanism than the square keys, and the unfortunate thing with the K82A keyboard is that it only has one of these. So as a donor keyboard, it's great for the regular keys, but it's not so great for where you do have the longer mechanisms because there is only one. Also, the K82s aren't cheap to buy, depending on where you look. £30 maybe they're cheaper. I've not looked in a while. It's the same process though. I try to lift initially mainly from the top, and I'll show you a picture of a close-up of the mechanism to kind of show you why I tend to lift from the top. And I'm going to change this tool out, I think. So over to a different tool now. I'm using these needle nose tweezers, which are very sharp and easier to get under. And as I mentioned before, I'm aiming it kind of at the top, trying to get under but at the top on each side. Gives you a better chance of the thing working, and then the bottom piece you just clip out, and that is a mechanism removed. So it's the same process as before. At the top you have these two little legs that fit under a tab at the top on either side. And on the wide key here, there's also a set of tabs in the middle that the metal bar will go into. So it's just a question of sliding these little sticky out bits under the plastic tabs. And then once that's done, you can then press the key down and clip the bottom into place. My excuse is that I've not done this many times, only a couple of times ever. And the removal side of things as well, removing them from a donor, I've never actually done that before. So that's the first time I've ever removed something intact with the view to using it. But you know, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. So that mechanism is now firmly in place, and it's just a question now of attaching the key. So I'm just making sure the metal bar is firmly attached to the key. There are a couple of little retainers within the inside of the key that the metal bar clips into on either side. I'm just making sure they're in and nice and solid. I thought originally this might be broken on the key, but it turns out it's fine. So then when you're placing the key, you're sliding the little metal hooks under the other set of tabs, and then you're pressing the key down and then firmly applying pressure in different points. And again, you want to make sure, as in here, that the top and the bottom are locked in. The top is currently loose, so I'm just going to press that around a bit and get it to click in. And now that one's done as well. Now I'm probably not going to bore you with all of the other keys, so I'm going to fast forward this a bit now. So that's those regular ones done. The thing about this keyboard is, as I mentioned, it's a prototype, and I don't know whether it's a 3-layer membrane keyboard or a split contacts keyboard. I've never actually tried it out, and I could probably find out if I plugged it into a Next and started hitting keys and I started getting different responses, especially, you know, from the special keys, cursors and such, or quotes. You know, if I get 100% success, but the key press is fairly heavy, then it's a triple layer. And if I get different responses from things like the quotes key, you know, if I get a bunch of P's appearing, then I know it's probably a split contact membrane in there. So the reason I say that is I'm not sure how the enter key is on the finished keyboards, because here what we see are these smaller mechanisms, and those are on the K82A keyboard. You see along the top, for example, there at the moment you have the function keys. the keys are smaller than the others and they use these slightly smaller mechanisms. So I'm not sure on the production next keyboards whether it uses those smaller mechanisms or whether it uses, full size ones. This enter key though doesn't feel quite right to me. So, and I'm not really willing to open up my, one of my good keyboards to see what's under there, but at least if they have used these smaller mechanisms, then they are present and there's many of them on the donor keyboard. I was just having a quick look around actually at the prices of the K82As, and yeah, they are pretty expensive, 30 odd pounds going up to 45 pounds. So I'm not sure, if you can get one dirt cheap, non-functional, then it's a pretty good thing to have, because there's over 60 keys, mechanisms, the square ones that you can then have and keep, in case you get into any difficulty with your own next keyboard. Yeah, so I'm just taking one of these smaller mechanisms off the donor K82A now. I've not dealt with one of these smaller ones before, but they look pretty much the same. Same shape, just less tall, I guess. Not really sure how the enter key is gonna line up with this, but I'm hoping it'll just click in, because obviously there's two mechanisms that we have to address here, but that went in really easily. That's good stuff. So that is the whole keyboard the way it should be, and at some point I'm probably going to hook it up to a Next and see what it does. So I'm going to show you the anatomy of a mechanism and the kinds of things that can go wrong with them, which then prevents the key from working properly. So if I just open up this one here to present to camera. So looking at kind of top to bottom, this is the orientation it normally goes in. And as you can see, there's a hook on the top right. This bottom piece is what connects to the Next. And then at the bottom as well, we have little sticky out bit here. And you will see, if I show you the other side of that, the little sticky out bit is not present on this side. So that is not going to work. The other thing that can happen is at the top, where you have the two sticky out bits pointing to the left and right. If they fail, it also will not work. I'll give up with that one now. So this one has a piece missing from the bottom left. This one has both pieces missing from the bottom. And this one also has both pieces missing from the bottom. And this is the closest thing to working, but obviously it's missing the bottom left. So those are the 4 points that you need there, down here, and there will be one here as well. So if you've got all of that, then you should have a good working mechanism.